Ethan Parker believed success had a sound. It was the crisp, satisfying click of a pen, signing a deal. It was the murmur of approval in a boardroom. It was the sound of people agreeing with you, laughing at your jokes, and lowering their voices when you entered a room. That sound followed him everywhere, especially at work, where he was a rising star, a man destined for the corner office. At work, Ethan was a king. But at home, it was different. At home, there was silence, a deep, unassuming quiet that came from his wife, Lena. She spoke softly, moved without a fuss, and never interrupted his grand monologues about his day. For Ethan, that silence had slowly, over the years, become invisibility. He saw right through her. When they married 8 years ago, Lena didn't have a career title anyone cared about. She worked from home, a phrase Ethan used with a slight patronizing smirk. She handled paperwork, reviewed contracts he never bothered to read, and managed investments he assumed were trivial. He called it not working. He called her lucky. He'd come home, drop his briefcase, and say things like, "You have no idea how tough it is out there. You're lucky you get to stay home all day." Lena never corrected him. She believed in support. Ethan believed in the spotlight. Their beliefs had once aligned, but now they ran on parallel tracks, destined never to meet again. As his corporate career soared, his distance from her grew. The gap between them widened with every late night at the office, every last-minute business trip, every conversation that was cut short by a call he had to take. Their life together became a series of clipped sentences and empty promises of maybe next weekend. Then came Rachel. Rachel was his new secretary, young, confident, and always impressed. She hung on his every word, her eyes wide with an admiration Lena hadn't shown in years. Rachel laughed at Ethan's stories, the same ones Lena had heard 100 times, but her laughter was fresh, energetic, and intoxicating. She made him feel like the king he believed he was. She admired his ambition, validated his complaints, and made him feel powerful. The affair didn't start with a bang. It was a slow burn, kindled in stolen glances across the office. Private jokes whispered over the coffee machine, and shared complaints about their boring spouses. Ethan would talk about Lena's quiet predictability, and Rachel would sigh about her own partner's lack of drive. They were a perfect, toxic match. At home, Lena noticed everything. She wasn't a fool. She saw the subtle shift in his tone, the way he stopped asking about her day, the way he smelled faintly of a perfume that wasn't hers. She noticed how he'd angle his phone away from her, how he'd de-smile at a text message and quickly put it down if she walked into the room. He stopped coming straight home, blaming traffic, then late meetings, then after-work drinks with clients he never named. But Lena didn't accuse. She didn't beg for his attention. She didn't cry or scream or throw things. She simply watched. She observed, collected data like the meticulous researcher she was, and waited. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Every lie he told, every excuse he made, was a piece of a puzzle she was calmly assembling. One evening, over a dinner she had cooked, but he barely touched, Ethan announced it casually. "I'm thinking of promoting Rachel," he said, scrolling through emails on his phone. "She's sharp, really gets the business, understands it better than most people, actually." He glanced up, expecting her usual nod of passive agreement. Lena carefully placed her fork down. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in what felt like months. "Oh," she said, her voice even. "Yeah," Ethan continued, already distracted again. "She's got a great mind for this stuff. Real go-getter." He took a bite of steak, chewed thoughtfully, and then asked, almost as an afterthought, "What do you think?" Lena's expression didn't change. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "I think," she said, her voice calm and clear, "that you should read what you sign." Ethan laughed. It was a loud, dismissive sound that filled the quiet dining room. "Oh, Lena?" he chuckled, shaking his head. "You worry too much. It's just paperwork. You don't even work. You wouldn't understand the complexities." He waved a dismissive hand, as if swatting away her concern like a fly. For him, the conversation was over. He had announced his plan, she'd given her a relevant opinion, and life would go on. He was wrong. Later that night, Long after Ethan was asleep, Lena sat in her home office. The room was her sanctuary, the one place in the house that was truly hers, filled with books and files he never looked at. She opened her laptop and navigated to a secure folder, one he didn't know existed. It was labeled Majority Holdings. She clicked it open, and a complex web of corporate structures, shell companies, and ownership certificates filled the screen. Ethan Parker was a senior vice president. He was climbing the corporate ladder at a prestigious firm, a company he was convinced he would one day run. He thought he was brilliant, a master of the universe. But Ethan didn't know something important. He didn't know that the ladder he was so desperately climbing was leaning against a wall that she owned. The company he worked for, the one where he was cheating with his secretary, was built on a foundation of money that had never belonged to him. It was her family's money, her inheritance, her investments, and legally, it still belonged entirely to her. She smiled, not with satisfaction, but with the quiet certainty of a chess master seeing the final moves of the game. Her husband was about to promote his mistress in a company he thought was his playground. He had called her jobless. He had called her lucky. He had called her simple. He had no idea that her name was on every document that truly mattered. He had no idea that the silent, invisible woman across the dinner table held his entire world in the palm of her hand. She smiled softly and signed a document no one bothered to read. The downtown Chicago hotel was buzzing. Tonight was Ethan's celebration of his meteoric rise to a senior executive position. The room was a sea of expensive suits and calculated smiles. Executives, investors, and even some board members were there, all swirling around Ethan like moths to a flame. He was at the center of it all, basking in the glow of his own success. Lena arrived quietly, a ghost slipping through the grand entrance. She wore a simple, elegant dark blue dress, no jewelry, no flashy accessories. Her hair was styled plainly, and her makeup was minimal. She wasn't trying to attract attention. She was an observer, a shadow, in a room full of peacocks. She found a small, unoccupied table near the back and sat down, her presence barely registering in the loud, self-important atmosphere. But not everyone missed her. Rachel, Ethan's impeccably dressed and overly ambitious secretary, noticed her immediately. Her eyes, sharp and critical, scanned Lena from head to toe, a flicker of disdain crossing her face. She leaned in close to Ethan, her hand resting possessively on his arm, and whispered, her voice a low laced with condescension. Your wife is here. She looks, well, a little out of place, don't you think? Ethan glanced over at Lena, a dismissive smirk playing on his lips. Let her be, he murmured, his attention already drifting back to the circle of powerful men congratulating him. He didn't see a partner, an equal, a duty, an obligation he was forced to entertain. As the event wore on, the champagne flowed freely, and the egos in the room inflated with every glass. Laughter grew louder, conversations more boisterous. Lena remained at her table, a portrait of calm amidst the chaos, sipping her water. Eventually, a junior executive, wanting to curry favor with Ethan, wandered over to her. And what is it you do, Mrs. Parker? He asked, his tone polite but dismissive, assuming the answer was of no consequence. Before Lena could even open her mouth, Rachel materialized beside them, a predatory glint in her eyes. She placed a hand on the young man's shoulder, her smile wide and patronizing. Oh, Lena doesn't work asterisk, she chimed in her voice carrying across the nearby tables. She's more of a supportive wife. You know, she holds down the fort at home. She punctuated the statement with a light, airy laugh, as if it were the most charming thing in the world. A wave of snickers and chuckles followed. The men around them exchanged amused glances. It was a joke at Lena's expense, a casual dismissal of her worth. Ethan, standing nearby, heard it all. He cowed Lena as for a fleeting moment, a hint of something unreadable in his expression, before turning away, offering no defense, no word of support. He let the laughter hang in the air, a silent endorsement of their mockery. He was the star of the show, and his wife's feelings were just collateral damage. Lena didn't flinch. Her expression remained serene, her posture unwavering. She simply gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, as if acknowledging a fact. The humiliation was a physical thing, a heavy cloak they had thrown over her. but she refused to let it weigh her down. Inside her purse, her fingers found the cool metal of her phone. She discreetly checked the time. 9:45 p.m. Everything was proceeding on schedule. Later, the clinking of a glass quieted the room. Ethan stood on a small, makeshift stage, a microphone in one hand, a glass of champagne in the other. He was ready for his victory speech. "To success," he began, his voice booming with confidence. "Success isn't about luck. It's about focus. It's about knowing what you want and going after it without letting distractions." He paused, his eyes sweeping the room until they landed directly on Lena. "Slow you down." The implication was crystal clear. The room erupted in knowing laughter, louder this time. They were all in on the joke. He was the powerhouse, and she was the distraction, the anchor holding him back. Rachel watched him with pure adoration, her smile a triumphant slash across her face. Lena met his gaze without blinking. Her face was a mask of placid neutrality. While the room laughed at her, she reached into her purse again, pulling out a slim, leather-bound folder. It was the same one Ethan had ridiculed for years, calling it "Air Little Book of Dreams." So opened it, reviewed a document for a moment, and then closed it with a soft click. The sound was lost in the applause for Ethan, but for Lena, it was a gavel falling. Shortly after the party wound down, the senior executives and board members were ushered into a private conference room for a mandatory board meeting. The energy shifted from celebratory to serious. Men and women took their seats around the long, polished mahogany table. Ethan, still riding the high of his triumph, sat confidently near the head of the table, a position of honor. Rachel stood dutifully behind his chair, a silent, proud sentinel. The chairman, a stern-faced man in his late 60s named Mr. Abernathy, called the meeting to order. The initial pleasantries were brief. Then, he looked up from his papers. "Before we begin with the quarterly review," he announced, his voice steady and authoritative, "there is a significant document that requires immediate acknowledgement. It concerns the controlling interest of the company." A murmur went through the room. Ethan leaned forward, his brow furrowed in curiosity. This was unexpected. The chairman scanned the faces around the table, his gaze deliberate and slow, letting the tension build. He was looking for someone. "Is Miss Elena Carter-Parker present?" he asked, his voice echoing in the sudden, profound silence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, from the back of the room, where she had been standing unnoticed near the doorway, Lena stepped forward. "I'm here," she said, her voice quiet but clear. Ethan's confident posture deflated. He frowned, a look of utter confusion on his face. He shot a questioning glance at Rachel, who looked just as baffled. What was Lena doing here? How did the chairman even know her name? Mr. Abernathy gave Lena a respectful nod. "Miss Carter-Parker," he continued, holding up a sheaf of legal papers. "As the majority shareholder of Parker Industries, your signature is required to ratify the new executive appointments." Silence dropped like a physical weight, pressing down on everyone in the room. The air crackled with disbelief. Majority shareholder. Ethan let out a short, nervous laugh, breaking the quiet. "Mr. Abernathy, with all due respect, there must be some kind of mistake," he stammered, looking around for support. "My wife, she doesn't have anything to do with the company." The chairman's expression was unyielding. He shook his head slowly. "There is no mistake, Mr. Parker." Rachel's triumphant smile had completely vanished, replaced by a mask of pale shock. Her eyes darted between Ethan and Lena, her mind racing to comprehend the impossible. Lena walked forward, her steps measured and calm. She moved past the stunned executives, past her bewildered husband, and approached the head of the table. With deliberate grace, she placed her worn leather folder, her little book of dreams, on the polished surface. It landed with a soft, definitive thud. The room held its breath. Everyone stared, first at the folder, then at her. The supportive wife, the distraction, the woman who doesn't work, now stood at the center of power. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken questions and a dawning, horrifying realization on Ethan's face. The chairman cleared his throat and said her name. The heavy doors of the boardroom swung open, and Lena stepped inside, a simple leather folder tucked under her arm. The air was thick with tension. At the head of the long, polished table sat Ethan, my husband, looking every bit the powerful CEO. Beside him, a little too close, was Rachel, his secretary. Her expression a mixture of triumph and anxiety. The board members, a gallery of stern-faced men and women, turned their attention to me. They saw Lena, the quiet, unassuming wife, the one who stayed home and supposedly did nothing. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Lena, what is this?" Ethan's voice was sharp, impatient. "This is a closed meeting. Security should have stopped you." I ignored him, walking calmly to the table. I placed the folder down and opened it, the soft sound echoing in the silent room. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil that had been my constant companion for weeks. I slid a set of documents across the glossy surface toward the chairman. "I believe you'll find these interesting." The chairman, a man I had known since I was a child, picked up the papers. His eyes scanned the first page, then widened slightly. He looked up at me, a flicker of understanding in his gaze. He then passed the documents to the next board member. A quiet ripple of whispers followed the papers as they made their way around the table. Ethan scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "What is this? Some kind of stunt? Are you going to show them photos? We can discuss our private matters at home, Lena." He shot a quick, reassuring glance at Rachel, who was now looking visibly nervous. "There's nothing private about this," I said, turning my full attention to him. The man I had loved, the man I had built a life with, looked like a stranger. 8 years ago, I began, my voice clear and measured. My family made a quiet but substantial investment to save this company from bankruptcy. It was a silent partnership. We agreed the company would be rebuilt. It would grow and someone competent would manage the day-to-day operations. I let that sink in. The room was utterly still. "That someone," I continued, gesturing toward him, "was you, Ethan. You were a brilliant operations manager. You had the drive, the ambition, and I retained ownership." Ethan's smug expression finally faltered. He stared at me, his mouth slightly agape. "What are you talking about? Your family invested. You own." "No. That's impossible." I met his disbelieving eyes. The years of being underestimated, of being seen as nothing more than a supportive spouse, flashed through my mind. "You never asked, Ethan. You were so busy climbing the ladder, you never bothered to look at who was holding it steady. You never read the fine print on the original incorporation documents. You just assumed." The board members were all nodding now, the puzzle pieces clicking into place for them. The chairman cleared his throat, drawing all eyes to him. He looked directly at Ethan. "The documents are in order. Mrs. Thompson is, and always has been, the majority shareholder of this corporation." Rachel stepped back from Ethan's chair as if it were suddenly electrified. Her face was pale, the triumphant smirk she wore earlier now replaced with sheer panic. The reality of the situation was dawning on her. She hadn't just been having an affair with her boss. She had been undermining the company's true owner. Ethan shot to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This is insane. This is a joke. She's my wife. She can't just come in here and—" "I was your wife," I interrupted, my voice cutting through his tirade. The words hung in the air, cold and final. I looked him straight in the eye, letting him see the years of betrayal and quiet dignity. "I was your wife before you chose humiliation over honesty, before you decided that my trust was a disposable commodity." I turned my back on him, addressing the board. The room was murmuring, a low hum of shock and speculation. "I want to be clear," I said, raising my voice just enough to command their attention again. "I'm not here to dismantle the company I helped build. I'm not firing anyone today." A collective sigh of relief seemed to pass through the room, but I wasn't finished. "I'm stepping back from any direct involvement," I added. The murmurs started again, this time laced with confusion. "Why go through all this just to walk away?" "But," I continued, and the room fell silent once more. "While I am not firing anyone, I am accepting Mr. Ethan Thompson's resignation, effective immediately." The chairman, as if on cue, placed a single sheet of paper on the table in front of Ethan's empty chair. It was a pre-written resignation letter. All it needed was his signature. Ethan stared at the letter as if it were a venomous snake. His face was a mask of rage and disbelief. His entire world, The power he had so proudly flaunted had crumbled to dust in a matter of minutes. Rachel whispered his name, a desperate, fading sound, but no one even glanced in her direction. In this room, at this moment, she was irrelevant. Ethan finally looked up at me, his eyes pleading. "Lena, please, don't do this. It's already done, Ethan," I said softly. I gathered my empty folder, turned, and walked toward the door. I didn't look back. Later that evening, I walked out of the towering glass building alone. There were no cameras, no applause, just the cool night air and the quiet satisfaction of justice served. In the weeks that followed, the story didn't explode in the tabloids. It unraveled quietly. Ethan's reputation collapsed not with a bang, but with a whimper. Without my name and my family's silent backing, his influence vanished. Rachel was quietly transferred to a remote branch. Her career ambitions effectively stalled. The company, under new, carefully selected leadership, stabilized and continued to thrive. As for me, I didn't retreat. I founded a mentorship fund, a foundation dedicated to empowering and elevating women whose contributions, like mine, were so often overlooked or credited to others. It became my new passion. Sometime later, a young journalist asked me why. Why had I waited so long? Why hadn't I confronted him sooner? At the moment I knew, I smiled, thinking back to that boardroom. Because, I answered simply, true power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need permission to reveal itself. And the people who mistake silence for weakness, they always learn their lesson far too late. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that celebrates strength in all its forms. See you next time.